Hello and welcome to Report World News. My name is Barnona Zarzoda. The Uzbek government is intending to adopt world standards into the national system of technical regulation, standardization, certification and metrology. This was reported when the President Shavkat Mirziyoyev analyzed the sphere on Monday.
The presentation unveiled the fact that the issues related to the standards in production, export and import are yet to be solved. The government now considers the world experience to improve the sphere. In Europe, for example, only 28 types of products with a high degree of risk are subject to mandatory certification. The conformity of other types of goods is provided by declaration. The need to introduce a similar system as an experiment was noted. At the initial stage, the procedure for declaring is to be applied to about 800 types of products. The accomplishments so far include the eradication of the use of 5.6 thousand outdated standards in the market economy and the upgrade of 3.5 thousand standards. A quality system in accordance with global GAP and organic standards has been introduced at 260 agricultural production enterprises, and the international certification has been carried out. In the textile industry, 32 enterprises have been certified according to Oecotech standards. 21 enterprises have received the CE marking certificate required in the European Union. The President gave instructions to start transferring all enterprises to the newly adopted standards from 2023.
The Uzbek government and the World Bank have inked financial and grant agreements on the project development of the water supply services sector and its institutional support in Uzbekistan. The press service of the Ministry of Economic Development and Poverty Reduction of Uzbekistan has reported. The signing took place on May 17 as part of the official visit of the World Bank's Vice President for Europe and Central Asia, Anna Bjerda.
The project is supported by a concessional loan from the World Bank in the amount of $239 million, as well as a grant from the Swiss State Secretariat for Economic Affairs in the amount of $7.8 million. The project is expected to improve water and sanitation services across 3 regions of the Republic. It also aims at modernizing the sewage treatment facilities in the cities of Nukus, Takiatash and Kocaeli in Karakalpakstan. In addition, the water supply and sewerage networks in the Sirdarya region and the city of Karakurgan in the Samarkand region are to be expanded and reconstructed. The parties also signed a $50 million soft loan agreement aimed at modernization of the national innovation system. Within the framework of cooperation, Uzbek firms and companies are to receive about 30 grants for investing in startup projects and in research and development activities.
Uzbekistan Railways has closed the first quarter of 2021 with $9.2 million net profit, according to the financial statements of the organization. The net profit in 2020 amounted to $10.1 million. Net revenue during the first 3 months of 2021 amounted to $218.3 million. Revenues from financial activities increased from $14.5 million to $31.5 million. The state-owned enterprise's expenses increased to $28.2 million, while a year earlier it was $21.6 million. Founded in November 1994, Uzbekistan Railways owns and operates all railways within the country. According to a massive privatization program unveiled by President Shavkat Mirziyoyev in October last year, the national railway carrier is set to go partly private in the near future. Ateca Hotels, a subsidiary of United Arab Emirates Ateca Holding, has unveiled its aggressive expansion plans at the Arabian travel market Dubai with a target of reaching 5 properties by Q4 2022 in Uzbekistan. The group's first upscale 4-star hotel, Ateca Hotel Suites, is currently under development in Tashkent and is slated to open in July 2021.
Making the announcement, Michel Noblet, the executive chairman of Ateca Holding, said Uzbekistan holds strong growth potential for the hospitality industry with unprecedented opportunities. At Ateca Hotels, we're thrilled to unlock this lucrative market and delighted to expand our footprint across the country with 5 unique and powerful brands catering to diverse needs of local and international travelers. Karimov Kamaluddin, Chief Executive Officer and General Manager for Ateca Holding, added that tourism is emerging as a key pillar of Uzbekistan's economy, with a republic dedicated to the development and diversification of its hotel industry. Ateca Hotels' rapid expansion is fueled by Uzbekistan's strong demand for high-quality hotels. The travel and tourism industry in the country, with its rich cultural and historical heritage, friendly people, and natural beauty, holds high growth potential. The government has recently initiated a number of reforms to facilitate tourism development. A key initiative is visa-free travel for citizens of 86 countries and e-visas for citizens of 77 countries, including the United States. The goal is to grow tourism's contribution from $1 billion in 2018 to $2.2 billion in 2025.
Uzbek ambassador to the United States and Canada, Javlon Vahabov, held talks with the Associate Vice Chancellor for Academic and Global Affairs of the University of Pittsburgh, Margaret C. McDonald. The parties discussed plans of the American scientific delegation to visit Uzbekistan this month. At the U.S. university intends to enter into cooperation agreements with Tashkent Medical Academy and Samarkand State Medical Institute. University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine expressed its willingness to coordinate with Uzbekistan's government and all interested institutions in introducing modern approaches in qualification training. This would help improve educational programs, conduct joint research, co-publish research articles, as well as maintain educational and joint scientific and practical activities for students and lecturers. Besides, the delegation of the University of Pittsburgh is planning to hold several meetings with local ministers of health, innovation, higher and specialized secondary education, as well as with the management of the Tashkent Pediatric Medical Institute and other interested institutions. Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan have resolved all technical issues related to the introduction of the Silk Road multiple entry tourist visa. According to the chairman of Uzbekistan State Committee for Tourism, Aziz Abduhakimov, the projects have now to undergo internal approval procedures.
He added that the exact date of the implementation would be determined by the bilateral commission of the two countries. Foreigners might soon be able to register their application in the official portal and receive the answer within 48 hours. Several other countries have expressed their willingness to join the project, including Kyrgyzstan. In addition, there are autonomous developments with the Republic of Azerbaijan. Potentially, Tajikistan, Mongolia, as well as a number of the Transcaucasia republics could join this project. Negotiations are underway, said Abduhakimov. Kazakhstan's Ministry of Culture earlier said that the Silk Road visa could become an analog of the Schengen visa in the region. The document would help tourists overcome visa, customs, and border barriers when crossing the borders of neighboring states.
In a bid to sharply minimize the volume of oil imports to the country, the Uzbek government is intending to organize 500 hectares of olive plantations in the Surkhandarya region. The plantations are expected to receive olive seedlings resistant to frost up to 10 degrees, including Italian Arbequino, Spanish Manzanilla and Colores, and Turkish Gemlik. The country is also focusing on the cultivation of sunflower, soy, poppy, rapeseed, sesame and flax. Uzbekistan received the third batch of the Chinese Uzbek vaccine in the amount of 1 million doses on Tuesday. The first million doses of this vaccine were delivered on March 27, the second on April 27. The country now has 3.7 million doses overall, reported the press service of the Ministry of Health.
The violence between Israel and the militant group Hamas showed no signs of slowing on Tuesday, despite U.S. and other global efforts to stop the region's fiercest hostilities in years. Gaza health officials said the Palestinian death toll has risen above 200 people after more than a week of Israeli airstrikes and artillery fire. Within Israel, 10 people have also lost their lives. The United States on Monday said it had encouraged a ceasefire in phone calls with Israel. White House spokeswoman Jen Psaki.
Our calculation at this point is that having those conversations behind the scenes, weighing in with our important strategic partnership we have with Israel, also with other countries in the region, is the most constructive approach we can take. So our approach is through quiet, intensive diplomacy, and that's where we feel we can be most effective.
But President Joe Biden is facing growing pressure from lawmakers in his own Democratic Party to play a more vocal role. He's spoken with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu 3 times since the violence began. Biden has strongly defended Israel's right to defend itself from Hamas, which the U.S. calls a terrorist organization. But the administration did not support Israel's missile strike on a media building in Gaza, which housed bureaus for the Associated Press and Al Jazeera. Despite the pressure for a ceasefire, Netanyahu said strikes in Gaza would carry on.
The directive is to continue to strike at terror targets. We will continue to act as necessary to restore peace and security to all residents of Israel.
The armed wing of Hamas promised more rockets in return. Egypt and United Nations mediators have also stepped up diplomatic efforts, while the UN General Assembly will meet later this week to discuss the violence.
Across the Brazilian state of Amazonas, more than 400,000 people have been affected by flooding. Heavy rains in the Amazon rainforest have seen rivers rise to near record levels. The streets of the state capital Manaus were underwater on Monday, a city that has already seen so much devastation this year from the global health crisis. Now, the homes of almost 5,000 families there are in danger. Further up the Amazon River, small riverside towns like Anamã have been totally submerged. One local resident attempted to salvage his belongings from his wooden home. He said he had nowhere to keep his things. He's just one of thousands of people who've been forced to evacuate. Ezzy Marquez is the civil defense coordinator.
The city is 100% flooded. We are expecting a record flooding, more than in 2015, which was the biggest one here. This is because of the increase in water levels and monitoring changes. It will be a record flooding.
Environmental researchers say climate change has led to extreme weather patterns, with some years like this one seeing particularly heavy rains and others seeing very dry weather. The deforestation of the Amazon may also contribute to long-term changes, but does not impact rainfall year to year, researchers say. Rainforest destruction has surged since Brazil's right-wing president Jair Bolsonaro took office in January 2019.
No Davos in Asia this year. After twice postponing its summit of world leaders in Singapore, the World Economic Forum canceled its 2021 annual meeting altogether on Monday. The Swiss-based organization blamed the cancellation on the pandemic, pointing to the uncertain travel outlook, the varying speeds of vaccination rollout, and what it called tragic circumstances unfolding across geographies. Every year, a who's who of the global elite, government leaders, CEOs, celebrities, and the heads of civil society converge in the Swiss Alps to discuss economic, environmental, social, and technological issues. The pandemic situation in Europe had forced it to move the summit from its usual home in the picturesque wintry Swiss town of Davos to sultry Singapore. The WEF's big meeting was originally scheduled for mid-May in Singapore, but pushed back to August. The Asian financial capital has in recent days imposed some of the tightest restrictions since it exited a lockdown last year. The next summit will instead take place in the first half of next year. It was due to return to Davos next January, but the organization said on Monday an assessment of the situation later this summer will determine its location and date.
The Aboriginal group whose sacred rock shelters Rio Tinto destroyed in Western Australia last year for an iron ore mine says it wants a better relationship with the global miner to prevent anything like that happening again. Rio Tinto destroyed 46,000-year-old rock shelters at Juukan Gorge in Western Australia last May. It went against the traditional owners, causing a public outcry. Birchall Hayes, a director at the Putu Kunti Kurrama and Pinakura Aboriginal Corporation, said co-management was the only way forward.
There's still a lot of work to be done. We've had to reset the relationship. I've always said that we're committed to building that relationship. We're not opposed to mining. However, we want to ensure that we're around the table when it comes to making decisions about impact on our country. We're not going to let this happen again.
The shelters held some of the oldest evidence of continuous human habitation.
No amount of money will ever replace that. Nothing. I'd rather have the rock shelter back than you write me a cheque. That's how I feel about it.
The incident cost Rio's boss, chair and 2 senior executives their jobs. Rio Tinto's shareholders rejected the miners' executive pay packages earlier this month in a backlash against the destruction.
Japan's economy shrank in the first 3 months of 2021 as new COVID-19 infections and a slow vaccine rollout hit consumer confidence. Much of Japan is currently under a state of emergency and deaths from COVID are rising. It's pushed people indoors and spending on dining out and clothes has subsequently fallen. The world's third largest economy has had one of the slowest vaccine rollouts among major developed nations. Government data showed on Tuesday the economy shrank just over 5% in the first quarter, following a jump of more than 11% in the one before that. The contraction reflects a scaling back of companies' spending, and while exports grew, the pace of increase slowed sharply. There's now concern that Japan's economy may slide back into recession and lag behind others emerging from the pandemic. Economy Minister Yasutoshi Nishimura on Tuesday blamed the weak GDP report on the curbs introduced to contain the virus. He said the economy still had the potential to recover.
And this was our last report. Thank you for watching and goodbye.